Hey everyone, here's a story on a cold case murder update. A 1978 child murder. Mon- Mendocino County authorities still don't know the identity of the two children murdered back in 1970. Those bodies were dumped along the remote stretch of Highway 20. In between Willits and Fort Bragg, state-of-the-art technology has now proven new faces for these children, renewing hope to find out who they were and where they came from. Now, without this basic knowledge, finding justice for these children has reached a dead end. Now, anyone recognize these children should contact the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office, and they can remain anonymous. But I thought this is kind of cool. See, dealing with missing children and stuff like this is what I'm thinking. Now, the teen's scattered skeleton remains were found in a steep terrain just off Highway 20, about 13 miles west of Willits. At 5:30 p.m. on Sunday, July 8th, 1979, the man who discovered the remains pulled off the highway following a domestic spat and took a hike to cool off. Now, his adventures into the heavily overgrown area next to the roadway, not far from James Creek, he spotted a human skull and called the police. And at the dump site, deputies recovered the skeletal remains of two teenagers scattered by animals. Now, at the first, the coroner did not know whether the children were male or female. No children were reported missing in the Mendocino County area, leading detectives to believe that two teens were runaways from another region. Some have speculated that the two were hiking when they were murdered for years. Detectives believe the two children were related, perhaps brother and sister. They had since been proven false. Now, the results of the CAT scan from John Doe, which was used on the basis of the skull reconstruction image, the BBC magazine followed this case throughout the demarcation efforts, and the children were buried without fanfare in Russia River Cemetery in Utah. I think that's how it is. Um, Now, the news reporting on this case at the time was limited. The TWN mentioned the fine of a few paragraphs, but then nothing. Now, the Yukon Daily Journal had few more mentions, but when detectives became stumped, there was nothing to report. Now, for nearly 33 years, the case remains ice cold. After 20 years, detectives used the new DNA technology to determine the children were not related. A forensic artist, National Center of the Missing Children, crafted a facial reconstruction of the two children. The images were placed on the website. Jane and John Doe were introduced on the internet to be more widely an audience. Now, dispute on the computer image software building face recognition of the skull image. The burden and exposure of the public failed to identify these children. Now, renewed pushes to identify these children began last year of for the National Center of Missing Children. Um, Now, detectives are applying new technology to this case. The skulls were two teens were taking to Unval Alexander Hospital for computer access tomographic CAT scan. It's a long word. The scan detailed three decimal images were transferred to forensic imaging specialist specialist Joe Mullen at the National Center of Missing Children. Created a skull reconstruction image. Mullen applied his 13 years experience in the field and reconstructed faces features of the two children. This new software has been available for the last 6 years. Said Mullen, so far has been about 40 reconstructions of this type. Mullen appreciates a surge in demand of technology as accessible amount. He also and others in the field have been working with the hospital medical examiner over the county to CAT scan to remains of identified skeletons to aid in identifying them. Now, the new technology takes about half of the time of the traditional clay buildup method, but the clay methods use the actual skull and bases on the reconstructed image can be used. A new digital process can be shipped electronically. The technology was used to identify the two remains of Stephanie Quezada, 20, who was murdered in Southgate, California in 2005. Her deposed body was found in 2006, even though there was the sketch artist who identified the image and was generated through the technology of someone recognized her within days of release. Now, her identity was confirmed by DNA evidence months later. Mullen said about half of the reconstruction has been done, and tentatively identified and are now waiting DNA confirmation. Now, scientists are also examining the skull. John and Jane Doe, they discovered that an extra tooth that did not belong to each child. The prompt human examination of the rest of the remains forensic. And Dr. Rick Snow assists the examination of the remains. He confirmed the conclusion to reach the original coroner regarding age and sex of the victim. There were no extra belongings on the third party with the burial remains. Now, rather, extra tooth is remain of a third body from the suspect, or a random conclusion has yet to be determined. I thought this would be kind of cool since we're dealing with missing children, and I mostly report on missing children in cold cases like this. I think it's quite neat how I see a lot of those on National Children website that I do see that you have drawings and computer images and stuff. But here's one from back in 1978, cold case murder of the two children. And somewhere one of these days we'd be able to pinpoint down to that one evidence and find people who murders or taken these children. And hopefully they can do it one of these days. Instead of wasting more of years are lost, like these years with these three ladies, three women who were kidnapped for over 10 years ago. Something we can be able to pinpoint the DNA faster, and we have all these colleges, Purdue, especially Purdue here, they do the same thing. They are always working on things to help improve DNA and eye scan and stuff like that to prove who did it and stuff like that. So let me know if you like this case number, and talk to you later. Bye now.